Robin Washington, I'm so glad you're here. Journalist extraordinaire, longtime journalist, documentary producer, and radio. I used to hear you on NPR, and then I looked at some old stuff. I was the same guy who used to listen to NPR. Okay. Hey, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Thank you, Mark. I'm glad to be here.
Robin Washington, what is on your mind?
Well, I appreciate the introduction. And yes, people do ask if I'm the same person, because not only do I have different media that I dabble into, but different geographies. I've spent many years in Boston and in Minnesota and, of course, Chicago, which is, my home, my ancestors' home, and in my DNA. What's on my mind and where you and I met was at one of the events marking my mother's centennial. She's left us in 2003, but this year would be her 100th birthday, and she was in an activist, CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, and NAACP, and many other groups that you may or may not have heard of. Uh, Artist, a teacher, mentor, and all that stuff. Her artwork is getting some renown now. We've got two exhibits happening simultaneously, one in Chicago at Art on Sedgwick. So I encourage anyone watching, listening to this to head on by. It's 1404 North of Sedgwick, right around the corner from where I grew up and where she painted every year. And it will be there through the month of June, till the end of June. By appointment, easiest is an email to create at artonsedgwick, one word, .com. So, .org. Once more, create at artonsedgwick.org. And Sedgwick, as we all know in Chicago, is Sedgwick, no E. Her work is amazing. And I have to say, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but the more I, get into it, the more I see just going through papers that she left and everything, the more I wonder, how in the world did she do all this while raising me and my brother, I saw one thing where she's out testifying, and just a few weeks ago, I came across this at Springfield in 1957, something about discrimination, integration, whatever, whatever horrible things were happening and still are happening in this country. And so she's down at the Capitol. Well, wait a minute. If this is the spring of 57, I'm like 3, 4, 5 months old. Where am I? Did she take me with? Which she probably did, because I don't think she would have left me with anybody else. So that picture I have in, my head of her, telling those legislators what was wrong with policies in Chicago or the state, she got me by her side, holding me at the same time. And then you see that she's painting a painting around the same time, and and then we did family things too.
Well,
I mean,
tell the people, tell your people your mom's name. I know she's a civil rights activist who those weren't around in the 50s and 60s. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. And people, don't know things like Congress of Racial Equality, CORE. So that's, important to know. Jean Birkenstein Washington. Birkenstein, if you meet one, it's a relative. There aren't too many in the world. Our family is Jewish and African American. So the Jewish side was not African American. The African American side was not Jewish until my brother and me, and we're 100% of both by every law of race and religion in this country. If you're any degree, you are. And so that's what our reality was growing up. And again, our reality was we thought every family was, activists that had sit-ins and marches. And it took me 30 years to realize, wait a minute, we weren't there by ourselves. There were a lot of people involved. Most people weren't. And a lot of people don't understand most Black people weren't too. It was dangerous. You didn't just go out and do this stuff.
But back in the day, that your mother was protesting for racial integration, right?
Mostly,
In the schools, in the
yes,
schools. Yeah.
schools and housing. They went hand in hand together. And the school districts at the time, this is different than the South. In the South, they simply said, Blacks over here, whites over here. And that's that. And that's de jure or by law segregation. In the North, we had de facto segregation, which is, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Oh, they just happen to live there, and so their neighborhood school is going to be all black and whatever. Um, Not true. The school districts deliberately drew the school district lines along racial lines of neighborhoods, and so much so that you could actually register your kid for kindergarten and think that the school 2 blocks away was the school, and you get there and they would say, "Oh no, no, you're supposed to go over here." Right? And it's hard to believe in this day and age, as a journalist, and I go for open records all the time. We're always looking for material from the government, and they have to give it to us if we send a Freedom of Information request. But it's hard to believe back then the school districts were secret. You found out when you went to the school, and then they would tell you where to go. So she got a hold of the secret maps by calling the schools after hours and getting the custodians on the phone. They were in the same union she was in, and they went into those file cabinets and said, "Oh, here's the map," and they sent it to her. And she did that while she was on maternity leave with me. So that's how she got a hold of it. And we've got this amazing picture that just discovered. It's in the archives of the Chicago History Museum of her testifying to the Board of Education in, I can give the exact date, July 30th, 1963, after a week-long sit-in at their headquarters. She's holding up a map of Orr High School's district. And at that time, Orr had just been built near Austin High School. And the neighborhood was changing, and Austin was becoming more black. And to hear hers put it, Orr was built to take the white kids out of Austin. And if you look at the map, that's basically what it shows. And she's holding it. I like to say she had the receipts right there.
Do you think that was like ancient history now? Do you think people were born 20, 30, 40 years ago? Should they know this history, and how can you relate this history to present day America, United States?
Absolutely, because the same situation is right now. I mean, go look at Chicago Public Schools, is still not integrated. And integration, by the way, is not because, we want to sit next to a white person that makes us better or something. No, it's not true. It's that you want equal resources. And historically, if an entity, a school, a neighborhood, or whatever, is predominantly black, is not going to get those resources. I mean, you've heard of food deserts, right? So black neighborhoods somehow don't have grocery stores, right? And she's
Yeah, but
fighting the same thing too, right? And so she did an empirical study with Teresa McDermott, another person active at that time. She's gone now too. Her son was at one of the forums where I met you, and the two of them did a study of libraries in the Chicago public school system. Guess what? White schools had more books, better books, newer books than black schools. That's empirical. Okay. So that's what they were fighting for. They're fighting for literally equality. It hasn't, I mean, things have changed today because although it did not happen, when she and others testified in front of the board and pointed out the unequal resources and districts and all, it took years and years and decades in lawsuits and all. But one of the things that they were advocating for that did come to pass is magnet schools. So you have Whitney Young today, you have Walter Payton, you have, schools where anyone would want to go to because they specialize in something or they're just good schools. And so that is actually a direct result of the protests that not just my mother, she and her colleagues did at the time. They were actually proposing in 1963 when we had, I'd say we, because I was there at 6 years old, a sit-in overnight at the Board of Education. Yes, I was. I'll digress to say I found a newspaper clipping that says among the sit-inners were two Negro children, Glenn, 8, and Robin, 6, Washington. I'm here because of the segregation in the schools, said Glenn, in using a big word like that. Most Chicago schools are segregated. Robin sat by listening, eating cookies. So that was my contribution. Okay. But I remember it like yesterday. And so the demand that our side was making was that schools with there'd be no school districts, that all schools would specialize in something. So if you like violin, you could go to, let's say Swiss school or something in Edgewater, right? They specialize in violin. I'm just saying that, right? If you like mathematics, you could go to, Doolittle School or something like that. Okay. Um, and so all schools that have a specialization, and that was actually the idea of magnet schools before they had that name, that there be no districts and that all schools have a racial quota matching the racial makeup of the city. Now, today, quota is a bad word. I'm talking about 1963. If they had done it back then, it wouldn't have been a bad word. It would have been something to be achieved or whatever. So they did kind of 2 out of 3 of those things and we're sort of there, but schools are still challenging. But um, it's got to be relevant to anyone today who wants a public school education.
Well, Robert Washington, can I bring you back next time to talk about your documentary? Don't don't
You
you
don't
don't have to
interrupt.
ride Jim Crow. I got need a teleprompter up here. You don't have to ride Jim Crow. So close the show out by telling people how they can get in contact with you.
You can find me at robinwashington.com. Pretty simple. Robin, like a bird, Washington, like a president, a real one, if I may make a commentary, .com, normal spelling. And there's a contact form on there, and so you can send me a message, and I'd love to get it.
Robert Washington, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo.